Thank you so much for joining me on the Animal Rescue Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I am really looking forward to this interview. You run the Safe Pet program at Shelby Humane in Alabama, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so Safe Pet is a program that you guys have that helps domestic violence victims, survivors. I know different groups use different terms for that, so I wanted to use both just to cover my bases, right? So you guys help families in need with their animals.
Yes, yeah. So it's basically like emergency pet care so that individuals can leave their abusive situations and seek shelter and get somewhere safe themselves without having to worry about their pet.
And how long has this program been running?
Yeah, so Shelby Humane started the program in 2018.
Fairly recently then.
It is. It's a relatively recent program. We're the only one like it in the state. There are other organizations that assist people on a smaller basis, but we're the only ones that have a pretty wide geographic area that we work with.
Okay, so you guys cover all of Shelby County?
So we cover all of Shelby County, but we're actually in 20 counties throughout the state.
Oh, really?
Primarily in North and Central Alabama.
Okay. Because you're run through Shelby Humane, now I am in Colbert County, and I know the county shelter here is limited to supporting only animals within the county.
Correct.
And so how does Shelby Humane have the ability to support so many counties?
Sure. So the Safe Pet program is funded largely by a grant by the Department of Justice. So that is a grant that we get on a yearly basis. We have to reapply for it every year. That is largely where most of our funding comes from. We do also get funding from a variety of other grants that our specific program qualifies for, and that allows us to focus specifically on a specific demographic with those funds to run our program. Ultimately, our goal is to be statewide.
Wow. What is the process for someone who wants to or needs to utilize the program?
Sure. So we are a referral-based program. So an individual has to be receiving services of some sort themselves. So we get referrals from our domestic violence shelter partners. We have 7 of those currently throughout the state. We can, on a case-by-case basis, accept referrals from other DV shelters that we are not specifically partnered with that are out of our primary 20 county service area. Again, that's on a case-by-case basis. But what somebody does is if they're needing our services and they call us directly, we find out what geographic area that they're in. So that lets us know what shelter they will be under the umbrella of. And we will refer them to that organization. And they don't have to be accept emergency housing from the DV shelter. We encourage it because they will get all the services that they can be offered from that organization if they do that. But they have to be receiving services of some sort. So they, often, mental health services, sometimes it's court advocate and that sort of thing, legal advice and services through those organizations. We can also receive referrals from mental health providers that are independent or working with other agencies outside of a DV setting. So if an individual, is already working with a mental health professional, we can certainly receive referrals from those individuals. If they're working, with the court, we can get referrals from court advocates as well as law enforcement. depending on the circumstances and everything. So once we get that paperwork and everything, then we can come in and coordinate exactly like what services do they need from us. So that can vary from they need housing for their pet, and initially we were providing services for 60 days just because of where the housing market is, and some delays in court processes and everything. Most people are utilizing our services for closer to 90 days. In rare instances, it's been longer. And again, that's on a case-by-case basis. So in those circumstances where we need to take, and I would say it's temporary guardianship of the pet. The owners do not relinquish the ownership of their pets to be in our care. It's just like a guardianship. They come into our temporary custody, provide housing, veterinary care, that sort of thing. On the other end, it may be that they have a friend or family member that they're able to stay with, but they had to leave all their pet supplies behind. And in those instances, we can provide crates, food, bowls, anything that they would need to basically restart with that pet. So they can still receive our services so long as they're working with a partner organization that we can receive a referral from, and everything like that.
From what I understand, or what I'm gathering from this, is you guys provide supplies as necessary to individuals leaving domestic violence situations. When the animals come into your care, is it a foster home? Do they stay at the shelter? What's that like?
Sure. So, for safety purposes and confidentiality purposes, animals that come into my program are not housed at the shelter. They are never public facing. We do our best that nobody knows that animal or that individual are receiving services from our program. Yes, 100%. We try to get every animal that comes into our care into a foster home. Sometimes that's not possible for a variety of reasons, school schedules, holidays, and everything. So we do have boarding partners that we also work with. So that could be at vet clinics, that could be individual boarding facilities that provide services for us. And we do try to move animals out of the community that they come from for extra security and privacy purposes. And our boarding partners have systems in place to protect the identity of both the owner and the animal, because there are times where the abuser is actively looking for that animal because it's a controlling thing, and they will use that animal relationship with the victim survivor to try to get them to come back. So, it's imperative that we have a lot of confidentiality in place, regardless of where that animal is, be it that they're in a foster home or in a boarding facility.
How did you determine which counties you were able to serve?
Yeah, that's a great question, because a lot of it, we were actually hoping to be in about double the counties that we are currently in this year. We're in 20 this year. We were hoping to be in 41, but our funding was not where we were hoping it would be. So we had to scale down. And part of it right now, it's just me that runs this program. So a lot of it, reasonably what I felt like I could get to within a reasonable drive time and response time. Because as you can imagine, a lot of these situations, it's not like you have a lot of advanced time to plan and prep and everything. So it is very fluid situation. So a lot of it was just, we're Shelby Humane, we're located in Central Alabama. So it was reasonably, what areas did I think that we could get to within a reasonable time frame? And what areas was I most familiar with that we could build up our resources in those areas as far as veterinary partners and boarding facilities. I have more than a decade experience in the animal welfare industry, so I already had some relationships throughout the state. So I kind of built on those locations knowing them geographically and what I felt I could reasonably fill out and have it in place so that we could have a pretty quick response time when we would get those referrals in. And that's ultimately how we scaled down to our current 20 counties. In 2021, 2022, we were only in 7 counties.
Oh,
So we had a pretty large jump this current fiscal year. And a lot of that was based off of building out relationships and finding, where the need was. Organizations that had reached out to us the previous year for potential referrals. And again, a lot of that is dependent on our funding and where, how many animals can we provide care for. So that's ultimately what dictated our current geographic area.
yeah. Are you looking to expand the level of support that you have throughout the state? So finding other coordinators that are maybe strategically located to help alleviate some of that time?
Yeah, that's actually part of the big picture. Again, it's totally dependent on funding. We had hoped to eventually have a coordinator down in South Alabama, 1 or 2 down in those regions, maybe in the Southeast and in kind of the Mobile area that could cover basically Montgomery South, as well as maybe somebody centered up in the Huntsville area that could cover the North, and then have somebody here in Central Alabama. But obviously, I mean, to do that, you have to have funding for, not only your employees to cover salary and everything, but also funding to provide care to additional families looking for assistance and everything. We are set so far this year. We are going to exhaust all of our funding that we got this year. And, kind of a little bit what's different, especially with when we're applying for our primary grant, is we have to budget a year in advance.
Yeah.
How many animals we anticipate caring for, how many families we anticipate working with, our vet expenses, all of that we have to submit more than a year in advance and wait to see what type of funding we will be granted. And we are always looking for additional funding sources, be that other grants or individuals that would like to support this program, as well as people who are interested in fostering. If somebody's in a particular community and they're interested in fostering for us, we would love to utilize our services. Just because of the nature of the population that SafePet works with, there is additional background checks and screenings and training specifically for our volunteers, just to kind of educate them on the population that we work with and safety factors in place so that we keep everybody safe while they're in, utilizing our services and everything.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question when it comes to, expanding and having more coordinators or support throughout the state. I mean, what sort of safety measures need to be in place to keep both the victim survivors safe as well as the people and pets involved?
Sure. So the number one thing is that there's no public facing of the animal, no identification of the animal is in this particular program. If the animal is in, regardless if they're in a foster home or in a boarding facility, if for some reason somebody needs to identify the animal outside of, somebody that they're just providing care for, we tell them to just identify them as a regular foster. Do not identify them as a safe pet foster or go into any detail over the circumstances of that animal. There are times that we will, change the animal's name for safety purposes. We ask that the animal never be, pictures posted on social media platforms or anything like that for safety purposes. So we have plans in place to protect all parties involved. And again, especially if we're putting an animal in a foster home, we will try our best to have them not in the community that they originated from. So that if that foster has them, you know, out for walks or anything like that, the likelihood that anyone might recognize that animal, you know, is very slim. We do everything we can to reduce the chances that somebody would identify the animal.
Yeah. How many animals or families do you typically serve in a year?
Yeah, so last year we served 30 animals. This year we've already surpassed that, and we have 2 more months left in our fiscal year. So we are at close to 35 animals served this year. Like I said, we've got 2 additional months left. I fully anticipate that we will have more animals come into care during that time frame based off of previous years. And that is, you know, 35, 40 animals that we, you know, provide veterinary care for. We, if they come into our care and they're not current on vaccinations, that's the first thing that we do with every animal is take them to the vet. They get a full snout to tail exam in the event that, you know, there has been any abuse or, you know, we find out afterwards that there's concern that there may have been harm to the animal. That does happen. Then we've got some stuff documented from the get-go from when they entered our care. We get their vaccinations up to date. They get flea and tick treatment, as well as dogs get heartworm preventative. Cats, we test them for FIV and leukemia. And if the animal is not spayed or neutered, owner, you know, wanting that done, we will coordinate that to have that done while they're in our care and cover those expenses for them. Not mandatory that they be spayed and neutered while in our care, but it's highly encouraged. And we certainly talk with them about the pros and cons for their particular animals and any concerns that they have, and just trying to look at things from what's in the animal's best interest. But again, you know, we want our clients that we work with to know that these are still their animals. They still have a say in their treatment. It can be very empowering for them to, you know, still maintain that ownership. It can be a really important part of the healing process, especially coming from a situation where you didn't have those choices. And again, we're still looking to cultivate that human animal bond. And, you know, that's a certain, you know, important part of, you know, for our clients to not return back to, you know, an abusive situation. I mean, that's ultimately why our program exists, is because we believe that, you know, that bond plays a crucial part in the healing journey for the people we work with.
Do the families get to visit their pets while they're in the program?
So that is always the number one question that we get. And currently, unfortunately, that is not something that we can facilitate. We are always looking for ways to set that up, but for safety and confidentiality reasons, we've not been able to find a way to do that yet. What we do offer is regular updates, pictures, videos sent to families. You know, they know that they can always reach out for an update. They always have, you know, contact with me. All communication regarding the animals between the owner, you know, goes through myself. So there is never, you know, and that kind of goes back to confidentiality. When animals in a foster home, they do not communicate with the owner. All of that communication goes through me or somebody specific with Southern Humane that facilitates all that communication back and forth to protect identities, and that's crucial for us. But they know that, you know, if they want an update, if they're missing that, you know, generally we provide weekly updates, but, you know, there are times, especially early on in the process, where, you know, we will provide daily updates, send them as many pictures as we can to let them know how their, you know, pets are settling in and transitioning in, because as much as the owner is transitioning, the pet's transitioning too. It's a stressful situation for all. So we try to reduce that as much as possible. But we do have to, again, kind of take into consideration, and I guess this would go out to, you know, anybody else that might be looking to do this. I mean, you know, I've had animals come into care where there were air tags on the pets or, in property of the pet and everything. So we have to take that into consideration. These are things that I've learned from my DV shelter partners, on things that they have to be aware of, as far as privacy and protection of the people that we work with, protecting identities and protecting, of both the client, the animal, and fosters and our partners and everything. So, those are things that we take very seriously and want to make sure that everybody's taken care of. Yeah, so we try to keep owners as informed and updated about their pets while they're in our care. I guess another big thing that I get from owners is like, what do I have to do to get my pet back? Do you have to do a home check? Do we have to sign off on something? No, this is your pet. If you're in a place where you can get them back, you tell me. I'm in a place to get them back. We are not here to, keep pets in our care longer than they need to be. We're happy that our program exists to do this. But at the end of the day, we are a pet retention program, and our end goal is to get these pets back home with their owners and help facilitate that, and not be an extra barrier for that.
I just want to make sure that I fully process this. If
Sure.
someone wanted to get involved with your program because they were leaving a domestic violence situation, do they have to be associated with a mental health provider, a DV shelter, police? Does there have to be a?
Yes, so they have to be receiving services of some sort related to the DV situation in order to receive services from us. And if at whatever time that they are no longer receiving their services, then they no longer qualify for our program. Another thing is if they move out of the state of Alabama, they no longer qualify for our program. If they are looking to relocate, we can help try to find, and they still need services, we can certainly help try to coordinate other organizations that have similar programs that we do. But before they leave the state, they need to get their pet. Once they cross their state lines, they don't qualify for our program anymore. Or again, if they're not receiving services of some sort from a partner organization, at that point, they don't want to receive services from us.
If they reach out to you directly and they aren't connected with services, do you help get them connected?
Yeah, so we yes, 100%. We will, depending on what their needs are. And sometimes that is just, mental health counseling. Sometimes they need court advocate. Sometimes they need a protection from abuse, restraining order, and we can direct them to organizations that can help get that, kind of walk them through that process. And once they're connected, then we step back from that part of the process and everything. But yes, we keep a list of resources available throughout the state. I actively work with the Alabama Office of Prosecution and in contact with them, as well as area law enforcement and everything. So, we can get them connected to whatever services are needed. And then once they are receiving the services, then those organizations are the ones who provide us referrals. We cannot, we don't schedule pet intakes or anything until we have those referral forms from whatever organization they're going to be working with.
And that is because you guys get grant funding, you have to have that.
Correct. Yeah, there's a lot of paperwork and hoops to jump through because of our grant funding that we get. It's also a little bit of a safety mechanism for us. We certainly have people who are experiencing other circumstances that, they do need assistance with pets for, but may not, be domestic violence related or intimate partner violence related. And in those cases, we try to connect them with other resources in the area. But because the majority part of our budget is from the Department of Justice, they have very specific requirements over how that funding is spent and the requirements that we have to meet for that clientele.
if people wanted to get involved with your program from the, either as a foster or to donate, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, so I would say start by visiting the Shelby Humane website at shelbyhumane.org. If you look under programs, there is a page specifically for Safe Pet, and that will take you to our Safe Pet specific page. If somebody's interested in donating, there is a link directly on that page that funding specifically goes to this program. And we also have Amazon wish lists on there over items that we need. We don't stock up on a lot of items. Most of the items that are listed are items that are actively needed for animals in care. And if they're interested in fostering, they can either fill out a foster application through the website as well under our foster program. They can specify that they're only interested in fostering for the Safe Pet program. That's one of the questions. They can specify that. If they don't want to be a general foster for the shelter, we can certainly accommodate that. And just let us know the area that they live in and everything, and can kind of get them set up with what the process looks like for becoming a Safe Pet foster. Again, like I said, that comes with additional, well, it comes with background checks that are, required for our specific program, and then some specific training that we do for those individuals who are going to be fostering for Safe Pet, as far as, kind of guidelines and safety precautions and everything that you won't see within a general foster situation.
What about who may not be able to foster or financially support the program? What are other ways that people can help out?
Sure. So I would say sharing our link for with their network for somebody who might want to donate. They can always do, like, I know I see a lot of the Facebook birthday fundraisers. I think sharing our wish list are a huge way, and just educating people about our program, because within the state of Alabama, where you're looking at nearly 38% of women experience intimate partner violence and nearly 30% of men. That's just within our state. So the likelihood that somebody that is in this situation and you might not be aware of it is very high. People find out about a program mostly through word of mouth. A lot of people will not leave their pet behind because the abuser is threatening harm to their animal. So they will delay seeking shelter for themselves because out of fear that their pet's going to be hurt, or maybe their pet's been hurt. So just word of mouth, letting people know that, our program exists, and just sharing that if they have social media and everything is a huge help for our organization and everything.
Sarah, thank you so much. This has been such a great learning experience for me. I've been in my work life, I've had involvement very superficially with DV work, and to have this put together with the animal welfare side of me is just truly, I've had chills like this entire interview. So I really hope that this helps get the word out for your program. And I know there are other programs like this throughout the country, and I hope people look for them and spread the word, because this is such an important message to get out there.
Well, I thank you for the opportunity to come on and talk about our program, and hopefully some people that didn't know we existed now know that we exist. And certainly if they're not in Alabama, do a little Google search or reach out to your local domestic violence shelter to find out if there is a similar program in your area, because I'm certain that they would love some assistance and everything as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this. This has been great.
Thank you.